so it came up in conversations internally a couple times, and I decided that, hey, maybe I should do this. I have found a co-host to work with me on this and to try to bring a little bit of personality to the show.
And maybe get your 2 cents on like, how do you make content for a podcast?
So the rest are mix of Trello and Confluence and things like that. Yeah.
No, there's like no Trello on there. Make no mistake. No.
Setting up.
Hey everyone, welcome back to what I thought was the end of the summer of Atlassian. But Shawn, we might just be kicking off the fall of Atlassian 2.0
Oh,
series.
that's a bad statement. The fall of Atlassian. So Atlassian in the autumn of Atlassian.
I did try the autumn of Atlassian, but I like to play on words on the fall of Atlassian. And this was last fall that I launched it, right? Last September, I started the fall of Atlassian, just as like a little joke. And just last week, somebody was like, "Is Atlassian going somewhere? Like, are they like
Someone
shutting
just
down?"
on the joke.
I was like, no, Atlassian's not going anywhere. It's just a joke. It's just me trying to be coy with we're entering
Play on
fall
words.
season. Because in the US, we don't really call it autumn, or at least now here in California, it's always fall.
I guess it depends. Yeah, most people default to fall.
Yeah, so it's like the fall of Atlassian. I have the summer of Atlassian, and we'll have a spring and winter. But yeah, I don't know that I ever want to do an interview series that long again. I don't know if I told you. So you and I, when we did part 1, it was such a long time ago. I was sitting here, like right after Team 24, going, okay, Atlassian's gonna revamp the entire UI.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I want to redo my videos because my videos are from 2022, most of them, right? And I'm like, Jira has changed so much. The way epics and epic links work, and the epic names change.
More than just window dressing change.
Yeah, there's been a lot of fundamental changes where a lot of my videos are outdated. So I'm like, I just want to redo a lot of them. And I've also gained a lot of insight in the last 2 years on how to and not to use the Atlassian tools. So I'm like, I think it'd be good to redo them. But then Atlassian hits me with that banger of like, Jira is coming. And I was like, well, crap. Because the whole UI is going to change.
Yeah.
And I don't want to redo all the videos and then redo them a third time when the UI finally drops. But I was hopeful. Atlassian's like 2 to 3 months. We're going to be rolling this out. That was 4 months ago.
Yeah, well, vendor roadmaps are always longer than they announce.
So then my genius idea of me of like, how do I make videos without actually making videos? I was like, light bulb, let me do interviews. And I signed everybody up, not realizing that I had to sit through all those interviews too.
Do we bore you?
I wouldn't say you bored me, but I made myself 45x improvement of hard work. Because the regular videos that I do, I record for 10, 15 minutes tops, and they go out. Sure. Right? It's 20, 30 minutes of editing, and they're out, 1 hour total. But now I had to sit for an hour, edit for another hour.
Pay attention for an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe do a little bit of research before the interview. So
right. So there was a lot happening, and I did like almost closer to 50 interviews. Yeah. The good thing is I put in so many reps into interviews that what we do in the Jira life in the whole year, I knocked out in 100 days.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm getting good at interviews.
and there's overlap. There's people that you interview that then show up on the Jira life as well. So
mainly the reason for this one's just the broader audience, right? There's just so many people that I just crossed over 2.1 million views on this channel.
Oh, nice.
So quite a few people come over here. They come to depend.
I noticed you got the background that says the Jira life. Is that the background you're using for this, or is this going on?
I've always just kept it. I've never really changed it. I never put mine. What I usually do is this, and I'll put you over here so it kind of hides it more.
So you don't see it.
Yeah, you don't really see it. So we'll leave that. But there's a lot of blurring between the Jira life and Ape Tech, and I try to keep them separate for the most part. I think running 2 channels. One is me and my wife, and then one is me, my wife, and Bob and Rodney.
Yeah, the other 2 wives. Yeah.
And so right now it's okay. Right now I think it's okay because the way the monetization works is still non-existent on the Jira life, right? So there's not a lot of integrity I have to keep, if you know, like if it makes sense, right? Like like I can keep things separated enough where it's okay, but eventually at one point, like starting next week, the Jared Life's getting like a sponsor, right?
Yes, I heard that yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm gonna want to be more careful. And then on my live streams, I do have a template when I do live streams on ApeTech because Resolution sponsors my live streams. So I'll put like a whole banner with there. But yeah, I'm at one point I do need my monkey logo is just not as cool as the Jared Life. But anyways, we're not here to talk about us. We're here to talk about you, Shawn. So you're here for a part 2, which out of everybody interviewed, we all joked around that we'll have to do a part 2, but you're the one that you're like, hey, let's do a part 2.
Yeah, I might actually have something to say that for part 2, which I think part 1 was good, and we kind of just went back and forth and just talked about things that came up and that we thought were interesting.
So what are you working on now? What's changed in the last 100 days?
Well, in the last 100 days, I've been convinced to bring something back that I had done during the pandemic, and turn it into a podcast. And what that was during the earlier days of the pandemic, where we're all, at the very first part of being locked in, and we're all getting used to not being able to go outside. I was doing these weekly Zoom meetings that were open to the public. And it was very similar to a lot of the podcasts that you see. It's we kind of start off with talking about news, and then just the discussion goes where the discussion goes. And we had a decent following. It got up to about a dozen people. So not great, but it rivals what's in the peanut gallery and in the Jira Life.
That peanut gallery would be nothing without Bob. I'll tell you that much.
He's the one that got me into the peanut gallery. So if it wasn't for Bob, I probably wouldn't have been aware or joined it. But I enjoy heckling from the peanut gallery
and heckling you do each and every. It's a very dull episode if Shawn doesn't show up.
Oh, I doubt that, but I think I had a little bit.
I think between you, Matt Dorr definitely gangs up on me.
Andy, as well.
Andy gangs up on me, but I don't know. I've told Andy this, and I think a few people know this as well. But Andy, I see him more like a fatherly figure, right? And I see him as like the bar of quality for Atlassian. Like every piece that I make, it's like, what would Andy say, right? Like, would Andy approve or reject? And I know that I've done something wrong if Andy's not happy.
Oh, does he call you and let you know?
Yeah. For our live stream, I tried for the 10-hour live stream. I tried convincing the guy so that we would do it a little bit later in the day.
Oh, so he'd be home.
So he can catch on to that nighttime, because the Sabbath is sundown Friday to sundown Saturday, from my understanding, is down to, or dusk to dusk. Mm-hmm. So if we would have pushed out just like 2 more hours, he probably could have caught in that tail end of it. But Bob scheduled everything.
So he that's why we don't see him as much, because he doesn't fit in the schedule anymore.
Something like
that, yeah. I guess it also depends on the time of the year, because sunset changes.
Yeah.
Seasons.
So this podcast, though, many have come and tried and failed have succeeded. So why the urge?
Well, we were pretty successful for a little over a year before I just got tired of doing it. So it came up in conversations internally a couple times, and I decided that, hey, maybe I should do this not 100% endorsed by my company. And, I know I've said in the past that, I am my company. And so if I say something, it is endorsed by my company. But this would be something that would go against that a little bit, that, this is more of, my opinions and my guests' opinions. I have found a co-host to work with me on this, and to try to bring a little bit of personality to the show, where sometimes I feel I lack.
Yeah, the personality is. I think you see that yin and yang between Rodney and I.
I do, yeah.
Right, and I think it's very critical.
You need to have the chemistry between the hosts, and I think definitely Jira Life has that. So, and then you have different chemistry when Bob pops up occasionally, and you know.
Yeah. Ray or Ray Foot. She was like, you don't seem happy with Bob and Rodney. I'm like, it's not that I don't seem happy. Well, it's not that I'm not happy, I guess I should say. It's we're coming at this from so many different angles, right? And my mind's racing all the time on new ideas and like how do we do this or how do we do that or creative new ways. Like I'm launching for what I've been struggling this for the last like 3 weeks to figure out how to do this, but I finally concluded I'm gonna do a Learn Jira in 30 days series.
Okay.
And so 30 days worth of videos back to back to back to back for 30 straight days. I don't know why I do this to myself.
You are torturing yourself.
I do. But the idea is that in 30 days, you've seen enough Jira videos to be successful in Jira. And then I'll go forth and replicate across different topics and stuff
You're,
like that.
You're talking full hour videos each day, or
I'm more of a topic. It's going to be topic driven, right? So as long as the topic takes, some videos might take 5 minutes, some of them might take up to an hour. But it's whatever I'm covering for that specific day on that specific topic. Might be a 20-minute video. I want to experiment. So part of it is I want to experiment with variety of lengths, because YouTube, right, rewards and
I've noticed that. Yeah.
So there's a method to that, but I want to. So I'm trying to creatively experiment, right? Creatively experiment, but at the same time build something of value. Although I'm not sure right now, I'm balancing out whether I publish this directly on YouTube. I'm thinking I'm going to publish the 30-day series as a giant video, like
one big video,
big giant video, but do the like on behind like the member paywall, like the sign up to get the 30, like you'll get a video dropped in your inbox every day for 30 days. Something like that. I haven't decided. The problem is not lack of, and maybe this is why I wanted to talk to you about like this whole podcasting, right? Because you'll find that it's not a lack of content, right? And so there's strategies, there's techniques, and there's a lot of things that I wanted to maybe bounce with you and maybe get your 2 cents on, like, how do you make content for a podcast?
So
what kind of content do you make?
So the content that we're focusing on is mainly bullshitting about the news in the tech world.
So just tech in general, right? Not
and even more narrow than that, just software development tools.
Okay.
Tools that fall squarely in DevOps, but more on the dev side of DevOps.
Like your VS Code,
GitLab, Atlassian, JFrog, Sonatype, some of the security stuff like Sneak,
Sonar Cubes and stuff like that.
Stuff like Sonar Cubes as well. So just who's making noise in the industry this week? Looking at a calendar map of events that happen throughout the year. There's enough events that we attend that we can cover a lot.
Oh yeah.
Just talking about what's been announced at the events. What do we think about them? What roadmaps were announced? Do we think this is vaporware? Do we think this has got legs? Where are we going with this? And I picked a co-host that is not in the DevOps world, not in the tech world.
That's an interesting play.
Mainly because he's more the voice of the listener. So he can ask me the questions that our target audience would potentially have, because I'm not necessarily targeting fellow DevOps folks. I'm targeting the people that want to get into this world.
Right. And it is an overwhelming world to get into, right? When you just talk software development tools, there's the table of element. There's that table of
we talked about so a company called Digital AI produced that, I don't know, about 10 years ago.
Yeah, but they so far have that gets 10 times bigger now.
Than
it was 10 years ago.
And some end up dropping off year over year, and then new ones get added. I have the original one in a magnet format that's above the door in the next room. So
I remember that one. I jumped into the DevOps scene in about 2014, so 10 years ago. I dropped into the DevOps scene. I worked in TFS, Team Foundation Server, and TFS was great, right? Like you had your build, you had your testing, you had your your Jira,
Yeah.
and you had your Visual Studio all in one tool. It
Yeah.
was all right
All
there.
under the same hood. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of tools that are trying to go to that. I would say that TFS was like the second major attempt, or maybe the third major attempt that the industry tried to go to a complete product for all of software development. We did that in the 80s with a number of tools, and then IBM tried to do it in the 90s and the 2000s, and then TFS repeated that, and now we got GitHub and GitLab trying to do that. Where Atlassian is still doing best of breed point products, but these other vendors are trying to move the pendulum towards the platform side.
Yeah, and it's gonna be. I see that topic being such an evergreen topic because,
Mm-hmm.
like with me on the Jira side, if it wasn't for the fact that Atlassian publishes new features every day, I don't know that I think it would be a bad statement to say I would run out of content.
Mm-hmm.
But I look at the Jira UI and I'm like, I think I've covered everything.
With the cloud, they keep sneaking things out there on us
Right.
all the time, and we're surprised when we go into work and then we find out our users found things half an hour before we got in, and they're all upset about some change.
Oh yeah, like when they changed the dumb user management from the top of the UI to the bottom. Oh, Atlassian. So, but that's an interesting topic though, because again, it's going to open you up to a broad range of people, right? I think a lot of people are genuinely curious about like software development tools. There's over the last few years been a big, huge push into non-techies getting into tech, right? I grew up as a techie, my engineering degrees, right, and stuff. But there's a lot of push for like even at the since what was it hour of code, right? That elementary kids are into code, but when you look at software development, right, it's just like we're just joking about that table of elements, right? But it's just such a broad, so many topics, so many tools, so many entry points into the conversation that you're standing there as a newbie going, where's the entry point here? Like, where do I get started?
Exactly.
And how do I not drown?
The another chart that I have similar to the table of DevOps tool elements thing is a timeline of when software programming languages were invented, and it maps it out from like the late 1960s all the way to 1990. And I would love to see one that goes from 1990 all the way up to the present. But it's a pretty old,
it's very compressed real quick.
yeah, it's a pretty old poster, but it's been hanging up in my my office for a long time. Not this one, but the one behind this one. But
it's a pre-office, it's the waiting room.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it's there's just that chart alone's got so many talking points on it. So we can say, oh well, this is when Pascal came into favor, and this is where it lost favor, and here's where Perl and Python come into play, and like, oh, I didn't realize Python existed that far back.
Yeah, and then like you get into the more newer stuff, like when React comes onto the scene, and what is dethroning, right? Because there were kings, there were kings and queens in the React space before React was a thing.
Yeah,
right? Or they were doing similar things like React when then React comes in, and so lots of languages. It's an evergreen content. I think it's something that I've actually kind of flirted with the idea of doing. I'm just not ready to pull the trigger.
Well, the co-host that I picked has got a background in podcasts. And so that helps a lot because I get a background in talking about tech, and then he brings on the talent on how to publicize the podcast, where to put it, because going into it, I was just thinking about taking some of our old Zoom recordings and throwing them onto YouTube. And of course no, that's not what you want to do. Like, okay. So, but now he's like, oh no, we need to, I guess he'd call it, I don't know, simulcast is the right word for it. Or if I'm
kind of like StreamYard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he definitely we're definitely paid for a professional copy of StreamYard. But he's like, this is a podcast that we can do mostly audio, and then we'll have a video option of it up on YouTube, but the vast majority of this stuff will go out to wherever you get podcasts from. And I used to listen to podcasts a lot when I had a commute, but I haven't had a commute in years. So I'm down to like 2 podcasts I listen to.
Yeah.
Airplanes,
Is your life being hopefully one of them? No, you mainly attend ours live.
Yeah, I attend that live, and I wasn't even aware that you guys produce it in an audio only format.
Yeah, no, we when we started this, just to kind of give you a little bit of background, Ronnie and I met up at Team 23, and we did what is essentially the first version of the Jira Life, right? Before the Jira Life was even a thing. And for about a year, Ronnie and I had developed this relationship, and we're like, we should do something together. Like, we should collaborate together. Because he had his blog post or blog platform, and I had my YouTube channel.
So he had a full year before officially starting the Jira Life to improve his internet connection.
He apparently lives in the middle of nowhere, so I would have probably picked a better house with better. Like when I just moved at the beginning of the year, and the first thing I was looking is my wife. I didn't even let my wife put an open house, like on our list. If I hadn't already like checked internet speeds and stuff like that. I learned a lot, right? So my last house, it was a very restrictive area with respect to internet speed and even like my very first day that we moved into our house in San Diego, it's in a valley, so there was no cell phone connection. So I couldn't even make a phone call that first week. And so we learned a lot of like, okay, when you're buying a house, here's what you want and what you don't want.
Now, I bought this house 4 years ago, 4 years ago last month. And I bought it during the pandemic. And the very first thing I did is drove by and made sure it had cell service. And I'm like, okay, it's got decent cell service. It's not complete bars, but it's good enough. It's where I lived before. I was also kind of in a valley, and it had terrible cell service. So I was, all up on that. What I should have done is verified it had more than 2 high-speed internet providers, and it doesn't.
That's usually a little bit harder.
It is. I'm limited to the one, and just today I had about a half-hour outage just before this call, and so I was almost going to say, hey, I can't make it, or we have to wait until I drive someplace that internet access.
I have like 3 internet service providers right now, plus hotspots.
Yeah.
And then my mom's like a 20-minute drive, so worst case, my parents' house is so close to AT&T's headquarters that we get 5 gigabit internet there.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So I had a gigabit internet at her house for like a year, but I never really used it. So we're under a gig now, but it's there as an option if I need it.
Yeah. So my only option here is Comcast Xfinity, and I'm paying for the 2 gig, and sometimes I get the full 2 gig. Usually it's just over 1 gig when I bother to test it. And I usually only bother to test it if I'm having problems.
Yeah, with the fiber, you usually get the full speed.
Yeah.
But yeah. So going back to this podcasting, then, so we got good topics. Video, right? And so anyway, so finishing the story with Rodney, we did the Jira Life, but then we knew the time commitment was going to be a problem. So we're like, how in the world did we collaborate on something, grow a YouTube channel, but also at the same time not invest? Because I spend a wicked number of hours on my channel, as I told you, for the whole summer. If I were recorded, right? If I would have done the summer of Atlassian as a live stream, it would have been way different.
Yeah.
But they were all recorded, like this one.
Yeah. So that's the format we're going for. We're going pre-recorded, and that way my co-host can edit things out, like all the ums and the pauses, and all that stuff can be taken out, and then
and all the stuff that gets you in trouble when the vendors come.
Yeah, anything that I went a little too negative on, or I'm pretty sure we'll keep most of that stuff in. But because sometimes a vendor just does something stupid, and I've got an Atlassian one that I probably should not share, that I'm extremely upset about them with, and but I'm going to wait until I hear back from them if they're going to resolve these problems or not. And I'm so very surprised that every other partner doesn't have the same problem, and they probably do. And I'm probably not the first one to complain about it. But
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like maybe shifting topics a little bit, right? Because see here, I think you're going about it the right way, though, right? Because I think people value opinions, right? Everybody has an opinion, and I don't think you jump on a podcast to just hear facts and data because you can read.
You can look that up. Yeah.
Yeah, you can look that up. ChatGPT can give it to you, right?
Yeah.
But these opinions, right? We were just doing the ACP 120 study guide today.
Yeah, I
Right?
saw you did the second. I was going to join that, but I had another call that popped up.
Yeah, but we're doing that, and between Bob, myself, and Ronnie, we're sharing our gotchas,
Mhm.
right? We're sharing our well, we've been screwed here, or we learned this lesson this way, right? And we learned not to do that anymore, right? But you obviously you can learn all that stuff through time and experience.
Yeah.
But the beauty of this is that you're now learning this because you're getting collectively the three minds of the three amigos here to really just push it to you in 5 minutes. Like in 5 minutes you learn, or in an hour or stream you learn what took us collectively 10 years to do.
and
So
multiple attempts at tests and
so yeah, so you kind of want to balance that though, right? Because I get that too many podcasts could be too jaded or too negative, right?
yeah.
But it's got to be a healthy balance, because at the same time I can't come out here just swinging and saying like I'm Team Atlassian 24/7. Right? I don't know that it would be authentic enough, and
Well,
I don't know that even Atlassian wants that.
yeah, it's not fair to Atlassian. They need to know where their warts are, otherwise they can't they can't address them.
Yeah.
And if everyone's just a fanboy, ultimately that doesn't work. It does a disservice to the vendor. Now, the people on the sales and marketing team of the vendor will never necessarily agree with that, but I believe the ownership and the developers would agree with that. Because ultimately they don't want a whole bunch of users showing up with pitchforks and torches and
Right. Well, that's why there's a balance though, right? Because you got to give enough positive reinforcement, but you also got to call them out where there's a mistake.
Yeah.
Right? Not every shot you shoot is going to be a 3-pointer.
Yeah.
You're not going to make every shot, right? Like there's going to be opportunities where they make mistakes. And I think what's great about the path you're taking, right, is Ronnie did this post, what was it? Team 22. So in April of 2022, he made that post about what happened at data center.
Oh, okay, yeah,
His infamous.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which post you were talking about.
the one that got him all the way to the board of directors at Atlassian. That one, right? And one of his comments that he made that kind of resonates with me every time that I post something is like, "Do you want to piss off the hand that feeds?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think what's going with you, there's so many hands that feed at, or potential for partnerships and collaborations and deep dives, because like I'd be super excited, right? Like this is one of the reasons why I would love to do more on the DevOps side, is like there's just so much content where have you heard of Tech World with Nana?
Tech World. Oh, yes, I have.
Yeah. She's got like 2 million subscribers or something like that, right? Like a
Oh,
huge.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's great for her. I've watched some of the content, but I never became a subscriber. So
yeah, I'm a fan, but I would do things a little bit different. But you can see that there's like when you're creating your content, right? When you're trying to figure out which way do you go, I niched down, and I niched down for the primary reason of all the experts that I was researching at the time were the riches are in the niches, right? So I could have done a variety of different tools in project management, but I narrowed down to just Jira. And if you look at my 700 videos that are published, 650 of them are Jira.
so the rest are mix of Trello and Confluence and things like that.
No, there's like no Trello on there. Make no mistake. No.
Yeah.
No. No, but yeah, there's the JSM, Confluence, work management, product discovery, right? There's like sprinkles of the rest.
And I would consider those all Jira as well. So yeah.
One could argue that, but the internet argues the opposite, because all my non-Jira videos perform the worst.
Oh, really?
Nobody's looking that up.
Yeah, that goes back to trying to figure out YouTube and how they do things. I've got a YouTube channel that basically is trying to record myself killing myself. Um, so
Darwin Award style, at least.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's me playing around in my shop, working on cars and playing with electronics and things like that. So it's not interesting at all. I don't have a lot of followers, but when I produce a short, it'll go up to 500 plus views. But if I produce a 15-minute video, which I don't consider that long, I'll get 7 views on that. And the shorts come from the longer videos.
Yeah.
I rarely just record something and say, okay, this is going to be a short. So it's confusing trying to understand. Not that I'm trying to make that channel anything. It was more of can I play with YouTube and see what.
So what is the goal with the new podcast then?
Well, the new podcast is mainly a way for people to learn about release team, to learn about DevOps more than release team. But it has some marketing value for us to continue to establish our known expertise in the field. So that's the ultimate reason. It's the format originally is going to be very similar to the ones I used to do on Zoom. We used during the pandemic I was recording I was doing a live Zoom meeting that was open to the public and anyone could come in. We really only advertised on LinkedIn, but we build it up to about a 12 person a week reoccurring attendance. So for doing almost nothing marketing wise, I thought it was fairly successful. And
yeah, no, that's a good thing there. And as far as content, so you're just thinking just the interview, however long it goes, or the conversation you're having with.
Yeah, mostly we'll eventually start doing interviews, but it's going to start off with different segments, similar to like
we tried to do segments at one point.
Where we'll start off talking about things in the news and our opinions on them, and depending on how much of a deep dive I can do on something. So like recently we talked about the JFrog and GitLab partnership, or JFrog and GitHub, sorry. Partnership and what that means to both, well, actually all three, the consumers as well as what it means for JFrog and what this where is GitHub going with this partnership, and why did they need to partner up with JFrog and all that. But we also talk about one of the recent ones. We've recorded a couple, but we haven't.
Yeah, that's always key. You usually want to have 3 to 5 already in the chamber.
That's So I think we're up to 3 now. So as of yesterday,
because you don't want your viewers to come on and like you start off with a banger of a podcast or an episode,
and then it does,
and then they're like, "What do you mean I gotta wait a week?"
Yeah. You mean dropping 3 at a time?
Well, dropping 3 to get them at least started, then you can kind of go
prime the pump.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we talked heavily about HashiCorp being bought by IBM and what that means. And unfortunately, I went way too deep on how many failed acquisitions IBM's had over the last 20-something years.
IBM, by the way.
So, yeah, are they really relevant? And I've got a lot of friends still at IBM that would say that they are still relevant. And
I remember I went to Silicon Valley in 2009, and our first stop was Google. And we got to spend a whole day at Google, and we're walking around the offices, and they're like, "Our food is your food. Whatever you guys want, it's all yours. It's all free." And so we're walking around like stuffing our pockets and pants and everything, purses, bags, backpack, whatever we could, like, because we were there on a college program, and we were on the hook for our food, right? So we're like, free food. We're just like, I remember my wife was with me at the time, and I'm like, I grabbed her backpack and we're just stuffing it with food.
You get your wife in trouble.
Yeah, well, I mean, 2009 Google was talk about infinite funding of curiosities, right? So so then we went to Google, right? And then we went to IBM like the next day, the Alameda research
Alameda.
facility. Alameda, the research facility they have up there in Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've been to it, but there's a gate, and then you go through a mountain, you go around the mountain, you come back around the mountain, and you finally make it to their facility.
Yeah.
And my friends were like, so Google keeps their employees on campus by feeding them a crap ton of food. IBM makes it nearly impossible for you to get in and out.
And so that time frame, they probably were still the dress code was button-down shirts. It may not have been restricted to blue and white at that time. That might have been a couple, a decade earlier than that. But yeah, but you've done a lot of stuff in with Boeing and Northrop, right? So
I have.
You know how those guys are even a little more tight than IBM was in 2000.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. To this day, it just blows my mind. The level. I mean, I don't know. I've never ran a company at that scale, right? Like, I think to tie it back down to our conversation about like keeping our truths and talking about positives and negatives of companies, like when you're a company like Northrop, like your opinions are very carefully monitored.
Mm-hmm.
As an employee, as a media, I joke around on the Jira Life every once in a while. Where like Boeing has gone after whistleblowers, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So like I'm very careful with.
They put those whistleblowers in the special seats on the planes that the doors
that end up that disappear.
Those seats are specially for the whistleblowers.
Yeah. So there's a lot, but I don't know. Like again, I've never really ran a company, but I would think that Atlassian, because bringing it back to my world of Atlassian, right? Like,
no, it's very much my world too.
It's you. I think you have to have a higher tolerance for negative and positive publicities, right? Because like I get that you want to preserve like product launches and things of that nature, but at the same time, what is it? No publicity or bad publicity is still publicity or whatever, right? Like as long as people are talking about you, yeah. And so I would, I don't know, I would feel like with a company that like Atlassian that has those specific values, they would see negative publicity as opportunities to engage and fix it because they have a vested interest in not screwing the customer.
Yeah, I think in general Atlassian has that. But when you look at things at more at I guess a micro level, individual salespeople do not have that.
Right. And I see that so much because I was this I'll give you a great example. This past March, I was doing a renewal for an enterprise level client, right? And I don't know if I'm sure you've worked with enterprises, right? But paying for something in an enterprise is not a here's a credit card, right? It's like we'll get back to you in a month or two type of thing.
Well, that goes to my gripe that I was hinting at against Atlassian that I wasn't going to explain completely, but they have made renewing cloud or more specifically buying additional products on the cloud extremely
harder than it needs to be.
Oh yeah, it's way too complicated, and enterprise companies are not going to do that. It's ridiculous. The set of instructions that I had to send to a customer just to get them to they wanted to add we convinced them to add base Jira to a JSM installation to fulfill a couple use cases that JSM just isn't made for. Yeah, it's like just marry Jira up to it and you're good. And to get a quote for them, it's been 4 days, I still haven't got a quote because Atlassian sent us this list of instructions that only the customer can do.
Yeah, I've been in that situation.
Like, what the hell?
I had Bitbucket's my pain in the butt because Atlassian just treats Bitbucket like a problem child.
Yeah,
my observations.
Yeah, it's not part of the Jira portfolio.
Yeah, it's not. The enterprise accountants don't know anything about Bitbucket. My customer success manager doesn't know anything about Bitbucket. And yet Bitbucket is a big, huge part of the DevOps strategy,
It
right?
is. Version
And
control is the heart of DevOps.
and the biggest problem that I have with Bitbucket right now is when a team wants to get it, there is no enterprise solution to Bitbucket today, at least in the cloud. So I could buy one giant Bitbucket and then start allocating seats and stuff. But again, enterprises, colors of money is a very real thing.
Yes.
Right? Like there's so many colors of money. You just can't buy one instance and go $20 for you, $20 for you, $20 for you, right? It's like
Atlassian's not the only company that doesn't understand that. A lot of the vendors have a similar issue with that. They don't understand why they can't just set up a giant enterprise server of their product, or everyone to their SaaS version of their product, and everyone just be happy with buying all these licenses. It's like, well, that's not how money works inside
big companies.
Big companies. Each project has their own budget. Sometimes they're set up as products, and then individual products have projects, and they all have their own budgets and buckets of money. And
no, it's crazy. But I'm like the representative between this team and Atlassian, and so when somebody goes and says, "Hey, Alex, we want Bitbucket," I have to give them the instructions, kind of like what you were describing, right? And I'm like, "You got to go through these steps." And they're like, "Why don't you do it?" I'm like, "Well, because you're gonna pay for it. So if I do it, I have to pay for it."
Yeah. Right? I would do it if I could, but I can't. It has to be with your account. And
but then the problem is, this is where I yelled at Atlassian so much here. So we went through the step. This was about almost 2 years ago. I think they fixed it since then, right? But we went through the steps like, okay, I got a team. They want Bitbucket. I go, here, go to Bitbucket, sign up for Bitbucket, get the free trial, get the 10 people or 3 people, whatever, it's for free, right? 5 people, I think it is. And then cool, we did that. And then I'm like, I go to Atlassian, or I go to my vendor, and then they go through Atlassian. I go, hey, here's the Bitbucket, here's the SDN, here's the URL. Let's make it happen, Captain. And they're like, we need the technical contact to submit this.
I'm like, that's they have not fixed that. This is the same thing.
That wasn't the part, though. That wasn't the part. That wasn't the part. So I was like, fine. So I go tell them, like, go to my.atlassian.com, stick my email in there, stick them in both, the technical and billing, just to cover our bases. And I come back to Atlassian. I'm like, all right, here we go. Round 2. Give me the quote. And they're like, well, it's not on premium. I'm like, okay, hold up then. So I go back and I go, guys, you got to get this thing on premium. They're like, it's asking for a credit card. I go, well, we just can't put a credit card in there.
Yeah.
So I go to Atlassian. I'm like, they're asking for a credit card. It's like, well, they have to put. I'm like, we don't have one.
Yeah.
So you fix it on your end.
You need to be able to support a PO. This is an organization, an enterprise organization. They don't do things on personal credit cards.
Yeah. So I yelled at them, and they finally, like, Atlassian finally is like, fine, we'll give you the quote, but I don't know what they did on the back end, but they were mandating that team needed to put in a credit card. Yeah. I'm like, no.
I don't believe that. I haven't run into the credit card issue recently, but we have, and I'm sure my salespeople have. So I don't think it's been fixed.
Yeah, the big one that I had recently, just maybe 3 weeks ago, was somebody created a Bitbucket. Again, Bitbucket is my problem child here. And Atlassian allegedly says that they created it like in 2019. Okay. The guy swears that he made it like 3 weeks ago.
Sure. Well, he probably did, but someone in the organization did something 5 years ago, and Atlassian remembers.
I don't know, but all I know is that I asked that. So I went through the same steps of my.atlassian.com and stuff. It wasn't showing up in his my.atlassian.com. I'm like, well, this is strange. So I go and ask Atlassian. I'm like, hey, I can't find this one, and he can't find it. And then they're like, well, we can't disclose any information. I'm like, but it's ours. Like, it's got our domain in it. And they're like, well, you need to sign a letter. So I had to write them a letter. And I had to sign the letter and send it to them, approving them to then disclose information. But I'm like, this doesn't make sense either, because the domain is clearly, like, Atlassian on the back end sees the email of the person who created it. And sees my email and goes, wait, this is the same domain. But, and then don't even get me started on those, like, discovered sites in Jira.
Oh yeah. That's hitting us as well. It's not hitting us as much as one of the guys in the Atlassian Slack channel, but I feel his pain.
Yeah. But anyway, I just think in general, right? This is again, Atlassian does a lot of great things, but from an enterprise perspective, which is really where their target audience is, like they got a long way to go, a lot of growing.
Yeah.
Oh, now I remember why I was even going down this thing. So we're doing the renewals in March, and they're like, your renewals, like your cutoff is next Friday. And I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah. So
we're still negotiating internally here. Like I'm still trying to figure out who's paying for which part, right? Because it's like a lot of money, and it's gonna be split amongst different departments. So I'm like, I got teams in IST, I got teams everywhere. I'm like, every conversation is a 24-hour turnaround.
Yeah.
every and one message you send, you're waiting 24 hours to get the response, right? I almost feel like we're talking to the space station here or something.
Yeah, you get a 9-minute delay to go.
So yeah. Right. So like, yeah. So I'm like, so we got a new salesperson this year, right? And she tells me, if you don't pay by this date, we will cut off your access.
Now, this is an Atlassian salesperson or
an Atlassian salesperson at Atlassian.com. Tell me, if you don't pay by this date, we will cut off your access. To which I responded to all my customer success managers and my EAs and everything. And I said, YouTube, I said, how's the title of my next video? Atlassian screws over enterprise customer.
Yeah. Well, the press release that Mike put out it's probably almost 2 months ago now, was that, Atlassian's doubling down on focusing on the enterprise.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting to see the effects of that. So
I think they're gonna have to. They still have, like I said, a lot of growth to do there, because from an enterprise perspective, I get it. Like, it's a very shiny purse. Enterprises have. I mean, when you look at like a Microsoft budget, like how much money are every company around the world not giving Microsoft for Office?
People give Microsoft so much money that they always have this leftover Microsoft spend at the end of the year that they're running around trying to figure out, well, what other things from Microsoft can we get to fulfill the spend that we've already committed to.
Right.
And we see
so I can see it's why it's lucrative, because when you're at that level of enterprise, right, then what's 20,000? What's 100,000? What's 300,000? It's pennies at that point.
Now we had a client about a year ago come to us with like over $250,000 of Microsoft spend that they had like a month to spend, and they're like, what can we do with this? And like we've already, the money's already gone, but we want to get value from it now. I'm like, well, the only thing you can do is get stuff that Microsoft's willing to sell you, for the credits that you already have. And they were running into problems where, they, at this point, they wanted to purchase GitHub and Copilot. Those weren't offered under the Microsoft spend that they had already committed to.
Yeah, talk about it again. And again, as much as we bash on Atlassian, Microsoft's got a very similar problem, right? Like the fact that ADO and GitHub exist together, that's a problem. we need one Microsoft solution.
Eventually, it will come together. But by the time it comes together, there'll be something else that overlaps that Microsoft acquired. But ADO is pretty much the home of TFS.
What is TFS?
Yeah, exactly.
TFS in the cloud.
Yeah. And but the more you look at it now, the more GitHub aspects are available. Because you can use GitHub as your version control and as your DevOps now.
Oh my gosh, I remember what did
but mostly you're right, yeah.
Well, TFS called it SourceSafe.
So SourceSafe was a Microsoft version control tool that they acquired when they were getting into battling development tools against IBM, back in the 90s.
Are we talking ClearCase, ClearQuest?
We are talking ClearCase and ClearQuest, but I wasn't going to mention them. But thanks for bringing them up.
Atlassian should be able to rest and sleep well at night, knowing that as much as we throw shade at Atlassian, we hate ClearCase and ClearQuest even more.
Well, you may. I still am a big fan of ClearCase.
I don't know that we can be friends anymore, Shawn.
ClearQuest, not so much, but ClearQuest could have evolved, and I believe it could have been a contender against Jira. But it was way too expensive, and the development team had their hands tied. They were not allowed to look at competitors and improve their own product based on the competition, which made no sense to me.
So it's almost like what ServiceNow is doing right now with trying to become Jira too.
Yeah.
I've seen some demos of ServiceNow. They're like, oh, we can do agile sprints and stuff, and I'm like, this is just ServiceNow in a board view, and holy moly, is this clunky.
So slightly adjacent to that, I had a call today with a business partner that was trying to get me interested in doing consulting around Salesforce DevOps. And I'm like, why is Salesforce trying to get into DevOps? And they're not. They're calling their customization tool that is around Salesforce DevOps. So it's a way to.
Isn't their Salesforce DevOps Capado? Capado's like their DevOps platform for Salesforce teams that are developing.
It could be. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, make sure you add Capado to your list of DevOps topics.
we may talk about it. I don't think I'm ever going to have my consulting staff learn Salesforce more than we already do. We use it in house, and we maintain it ourselves. And it's not much different than any other issue tracking system on top of a database. That's all ClearQuest was. It's all Jira is. It's a really nice GUI and API on top of a database. And they're oversimplifying it, but ultimately that's what these things are. Salesforce makes it impossible to work with. Some people might have thought, in the early days, Jira Server was tough to customize, dealing with workflows and stuff, especially before a lot of the popular add-ons were created. Trying to create logic in your workflows was kind of a pain in the butt. You had to jump in and write it in JavaScript and stuff like that yourself. But then all the add-ons came, and just click and point and whatever to add a validator or whatever. And now we got automations, but Salesforce. Like I had to in our own instance, someone wrote a validator to put phone numbers in a logical format for the United States and Europe. And we just recently had a customer somewhere in Europe that didn't follow the standard. I don't know what it is, the 7-digit numbers or 11, whatever it is for the European phone number. They were 1 digit off. And our validator wouldn't accept the phone number. And I'm like, well, we need to be able to save the phone number in the CRM system,
Because that's kind of a key part of what a CRM does.
Yeah. And then I looked, and it turned out my salespeople had found this like a year ago, and they had been using a workaround by adding the phone number in the description. And I'm like, well, no, that's one of the things I hate when I'm rolling out a Jira, where these people load up the subject or the, what is it called?
The summary.
Summary. Thank you. They load up the summary with all these things that we have fields for. But
right. However, you made the comment on the viral offense of putting all the Jira issue data in the title.
Yeah, I hate that. And so I was harassing so I had to find out where the hell this validator lives. And there's like 8 different places in Salesforce that you could program a validator. And, it took me longer than it should have. I'm like, this should have been a 5-minute task. And it took me like 20 minutes to locate it. And then it took me like a second to update. But it's like,
I think like, just the way this, I'm assuming your conversations are going to probably go a lot like this in your podcast.
Probably, yeah.
and I'm very excited for you. I'm very, very excited for you. I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you attended a call recently. Oh, no, it wasn't recently. It was probably back in May or June, right? But at the Atlassian conference, there were some influencers on site. I don't know if you ran into them.
I did not run in. Well, I may have. I just didn't realize it.
Right.
But I remember during the one of the sessions that Atlassian was hiring a lot of these influencers that they had a lot of pull on channels like Instagram or
Right,
YouTube,
right.
but
And
they
so,
didn't have any creds in the Atlassian.
yeah, and so that's kind of where my biggest frustration is right now with where do I want to take the channel, right? Because I naively and egotistically say I've monopolized the Atlassian ecosystem with respect to a Jira video. I challenge you to Google something in Jira and not have a video of mine pop up.
Exactly. You usually you're one of the first ones
Yeah.
that pop up, and like
So
I try to answer things on the Atlassian community. I try to do at least 3 a day is my goal. I can carve out enough time to at least answer 3 things in either Confluence or Jira, and often I'll Google to see if where I'm going was the correct way, and usually if it's a Jira one, you pop up, and
right.
and
So
sometimes
so
you're
yes,
good.
I've kind of monopolized it, right? And so, but yet I wouldn't be under any consideration because of just the user count, even though I got 20,000 subs and people really don't subscribe to channels. Like I actually have like 100,000 unique viewers that come to the channel every month.
Well, I started watching YouTube as my primary entertainment source probably about 2 years ago. Before that, I didn't even know you could watch things on YouTube. I knew it was a collection of videos, but I never thought that there was consistent content. I always thought it was just random videos. And then my son straightened me out. He's like, well, no, you should be watching these things. There's all sorts of stuff you would be interested in. And it was, maybe 6 months later, I met you and Rodney and
Yeah,
your life and
but,
stuff. So,
but
but I can't subscribe to any more stuff.
it's hard.
It's pointless, because I go to so I usually watch it on my TV, and the TV interface for the YouTube is adequate. It's not, it's not great. But then I click on the little icon for subscriptions and it goes like 4 pages and it's alphabetical. It's not like, maybe there's a way to list it only by new content. But I'm scrolling through, and if I want to so you come up really easy because you're an A. But if I want to see something, like if I want to watch the Jira Life and I'm doing it on my living room TV and not, usually I'm here in my office one because it's during the day, and and luckily Rodney lives on the East Coast, so it's not during working hours for him, or I'd have something to tell him. So.
That was very strategic. Both
for Bob, though, he's cutting into working time, so I gotta give him a talking to. But
so Bob was kind of he came in after, right? So when we came up with the time for the Jira Life, because I work East Coast time, that 5 p.m. was like, yeah. So we're in the clear. We're done with our days by 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where that time came to be. So luckily, Bob is not usually front and center most of the time. It's usually, I would suspect, I would hope he's doing some work in the back.
Yeah. No,
he doesn't have to be paying
I'm teasing him. So.
Yeah, no. So, but anyways, the reason I'm telling you though is again, I feel like the direction you're going is the direction I would want to start going into, right? Because I feel like now that I've monopolized the Jira videos, it's like, what's next? And so, broadening the horizon, right? Casting that net a little wider.
Needs to make more products so you can continue doing Atlassian.
I'm telling you though, I've tried Confluence, I've tried product discovery, I've tried JSM. They don't bite as hard as
there's a bigger install base of people trying to learn how to do things in Jira.
I'm currently flirting. The 2 paths that I want to take right now is Agile. It's been a long time since I've done an Agile video, right? And I think
that spans multiple vendors, so it's more agnostic. And in theory, you would think that there's more, there's a bigger audience for it.
Yeah, I think so too. And there's a little bit more competition on the YouTube side because I check out my competition quite a bit, right? I'm in tune with who my YouTube competitors are, and volume negates luck, I suppose, because this is a hard thing. I will tell you as a tip, because there have been other podcasts that have started over the summer, and I've dwindled by the end of the summer.
Yeah.
Preparation is key, right? Because I'm creating the next 3 months worth of videos today.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you say that, and I completely believe you for your channel. I'm hesitant on the Journal Life.
Well, on the Journal Life,
Well,
we're usually
once Bob joined, I would say your preparation is showing.
Yeah, we were, so at the beginning we were just lost, right? Like we didn't even know what to do. And even right now, I don't know if the Journal Life format is the right format, but it's growing. We're pushing almost 20 people sometimes in there concurrently.
Yeah.
So it's growing. I think on the Journal Life though, like this, so we did a conscious decision to do the ACP 120 study guide inside of the Journal Life. I wouldn't have done it. I mean, I'd rather do it in the area where I control everything.
Are you actually going to take the test, or are you just doing the study?
I'm taking the test. I'm gonna get them all now. I'm just like,
oh, cool.
I'm gonna get them all because I want to see what I do with my career long term, and I feel like just having them all is gonna open me up to new opportunities.
I did enough to satisfy the partnership requirements, and I like to say that I had the minimum amount of flair. But then when Bob started with us, or maybe about a year after Bob started at Release Team, he pointed out the fact that the combination of the ones that I had brought me very close to being
the expert.
The
certified expert.
Yeah. And so I looked at that, and I only needed one exam, and I'm a certified expert. So I'm like, okay, I'll go and do that. And it just happened to be one that we were doing the study guide for. And so I knocked that out. I got certified expert.
And then they kill it.
Months before they killed it.
Then they kill it off.
So I'm like, well, at least I got it. I got the jacket. And then I think you were saying,
I have the jacket too, but I've been told I haven't earned it.
you were telling the story. I don't remember if it was in a Journal Life or if it was
in the Journal Life. Yeah.
Okay. Because I was there just before you when they opened up the closet behind that video wall thing.
Yeah.
They're like, anyone that wants one of these can have them. And so I took a couple extra as well. And I was like, well, this, at least I got 3 jackets total.
One for each cert.
Well, yeah, the one they sent me didn't fit. They run pretty small. But yeah.
So if I were to go down your route though of doing DevOps, just to kind of wrap this video up, because if I were to, I'm half tempted. I would love to do kind of like a competing channel with like Tech World Banana, or whatever her name is, right?
Atlanta. You're saying it so fast, I'm thinking you're saying one word.
Tech World with Nana. Well,
yes,
she speaks very fast in those videos too.
She does, yes. Yeah.
But because just from I feel like just certifications in DevOps tools is like a thing. Like conferences in DevOps tools is like another niche.
You could have a channel that just talked about conferences. In fact, if I didn't actually have to run a business, I would be attending a lot more conferences. But there's just a ridiculous amount of conferences. In fact, I've got some people I feel are friends that just are at a conference every other week. And in fact, I was just at the Gene Kim's conference 2 weeks ago, and the majority of those people were getting on a flight to go to Europe to attend the next DevOps conference. And I was like, how are you guys doing this? Who's funding you to just jump from conference to conference?
See, I need to get to the point where I'm a speaker at each of these conferences.
Yeah.
Then you can justify it.
Yeah, and I guess the days are coming back where these vendors are paying expenses to speak at the conference. There was decades where you would get a free conference pass, but they weren't taking care of your travel to speak at conferences. But I think it's been about 2 years that this is starting to reemerge. And I don't know if the phenomenon is that conferences aren't getting enough speakers anymore. I'm not sure I believe that because
we get rejected so much from Atlanta.
Exactly, that's where I'm going with that. Is like so many people are putting in talks for these conferences and get rejected, yet then they fly somebody in because they've been doing DevOps days for 12 years and So
no, but now that we have the book, so I will tell you, because I know we're out of time here. My personal goal right now is take the book that we published and turn it into a course on my channel.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Turn it into a course and then kind of do like a little marketing thing where like, get the book, here's the course. It's a free course. Go buy the book, kind of drive sales to the book. Yeah. I'm not too eager to push it too much because we, believe it or not, we get like pennies for the book.
Oh yeah. Well, I wrote a book in 2019, and it still sells, but yeah, I'm not making any money off it. Right. So, not even enough to compensate my time for writing the book.
So I would want to do it, but then I know I'm writing more books, but I want to have way more, like I'm self-publishing going forward. Right. So that, but I want to test the model. I want to test the model of like, here's the book, here's the course, here's the playbook, here's the guide, here's all the associated things, like go do it. Here's all the conference talks and stuff like that. So certifications and whatnot. So I'm excited. I got a lot. There's no shortage of content coming out of me.
Yeah, I keep saying I'm going to write the next edition of my book. Part of the problem I did is I added way too many references at the end of the book. So probably the last, I don't know, eighth of the book is just all industry references. And the amount of work to go through those to vet that there's still, active URLs, or, I list a number of podcasts and things.
I'm trying to get an intern.
Yeah. Well, I actually did have my release team intern start working on all this, but by the time she's finished, I think she needs to start again.
So before we finish, maybe we can cut it out. If it's up to you. Sure. Do we got a name?
Oh yeah. So we're the working name is the DevOps Roundup, because we're initially focusing on the news of the week and talking about that. So the word DevOps is interesting, and Roundup kind of means news of the week and stuff like that.
Get your lasso.
Yeah, and I am out of Denver, so the whole Western theme is nice. Too. So
DevOps Roundup. Yeah, and when do you launch?
You don't need to cut that out. So you can
and when do you launch?
We're hoping to launch the week after next. So I'm actually at the JFrog Swamp Up conference next week. And so I didn't want it to launch while I was at a conference. I wanted to be actually at home and in case there's something we want to do live or something during the launch.
Well, good luck. I'm always here if you need anything. You obviously own 2/3 of the Jira Life.
I don't. They do what they want.
I always joke around. I'm like, one day you might have to have 3/3.
Well, I am always hiring the right people. So.
I'm working on those certs. I feel like until I get those certs, I don't want to open my big fat mouth. No, we're coming. We're doing it.
Good luck on the certs.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
They seem to never end. Last thing, you'll always make more certs, or there'll always be another company that comes up with certs.
Right. Yeah. So, but I'm excited. I think the future looks bright here for both of us.
So I don't know if I'm closing out your summer of Atlassian.
At this point, yeah. So at this point, I had Funman Andy as a closer, but you're going to be like the encore.
Oh, okay. Well, I will follow Funman.
We'll just call it encore.
Encore. That's cool. That's cool. In fact, it plays with my book. So my book was DevOps Overture, which is the beginning of DevOps, and it kind of explains how to get into DevOps. So being an encore would kind of make sense.
Yeah. Well, Shawn, thank you again. So much fun here with you, and I knew we were gonna have some fun. I know we came in not scripted.
But... Oh, of course not. Well, I wouldn't want to break the mold and actually have a script. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, who reads the script?
Oh, I'm assuming Bob doesn't watch these. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, appreciate it, Shawn, and we'll see you around.
All right. See you, Alex.